Hi, my name is Brooke Hamby, and I decided to do a 100-day project finding and interviewing people who are what I call cultural creatives. And cultural creatives are those people who create their own life by their own true nature. And I kind of call this living wild and free. Our wild nature is something that is what we have as children, that excitement and love. You just want to go hug a friend because you're just so happy and you want to roll in the grass. That's wild. And we're meant to tap that down, or we're supposed to tap that down. But when we live openly and freely, that's wild. And a lot of people that I've met took small steps along the way and actually created something for themselves. And it's not necessarily their career, it's just something that they love to do. Myself, I love going outside and having a backyard safari every day. It's something I do every day. It's not what I get paid for. I walk around and find what calls to me. It might be something beautiful in the yard. It's a creature. It's something that I'm taking care of and nurturing and bringing it close to me. That is my calling, being in nature and being surrounded by the beauty around me and nurturing all the creatures around me. My pets, my fur babies, rescuing things when I can, feeding when I need to. That's my calling. So I've found other people that have done the same thing. And I'm ready to meet with Stacey Andon, and she's one of those people. And she is a Wayfinder life coach, or Martha Beck certified life coach. She basically helps people do this for a living. She helps other people find their path, connect with who they are, and make those steps along that way to see the bright and beautiful person that they are on the inside. Stacey herself is amazing too, and there are such words of wisdom here, and I hope that anybody who's watching this can get all the joy and all the excitement that I can feel from her. And I hope you enjoy Stacey Andon at Stacey Andon Coaching. Here she comes. First, share with me a little bit of your background. My main question is, how did you know who you were underneath it all, underneath the culture that was given to you?
So interestingly enough, I don't know if this is out there. I don't know if you saw this or not. When I was 5, maybe I was young, we would, my mother's family lived far away, hours away. So we would be in the car ride, like holidays and other summers and things. And my family loved to play, like, guess what animal I'm thinking? Guess what color? Guess what? No, I mean, we're just playing all these games. I could go around the whole car and guess everybody's thing immediately, like on the first guess. And it like, my father was like, well, what is this? And then he kind of put me in this. I can remember being in our living room, and he was like conducting his own ESP experiments on me. Now I was young, so at the time I didn't really understand. It just right, like when you're just in your intuitive gifts, which I am like, I've come to realize as I've allowed myself to really be in the gifts that I have very kind of deep channels of energy. I'm a medium. I can really channel messages for people, not even just from people who've passed, but like I have this gift of really being able to feel into what people need in the moment. I also see energy through colors. I can, again, a lot of times I can reading. But when I was young, my father couldn't explain it, and he gave me the message of like this is not really like something I understand or know, and you're really like super sensitive. That was the other part of it, which a lot of I think light workers, energy people, intuitives here, it's like you're too sensitive. Like that was probably the thing. And it was like, you need to shut that down or keep that contained. So for most of my life, I really did kind of keep that. It came out sometimes, but it wasn't something I was using as like my superpower, right? Or superpowers in the world.
Right. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, right around that time, I also declared to my family I was going to be a teacher. Now, I did become a teacher. Nobody that I knew was a teacher. And when I got into education, most people, if you ask them, how'd you become a teacher? My parents were teachers, my aunt, my uncle, somebody was a teacher. I just had this like premonition right from the start, and then that's what I did, and I went into education. And interestingly enough, I did not go into life coaching until a good probably 15 years. No, actually, probably closer to 20 years later. And when you ask that question of like, how did I know? I ended up leaving education and I went and worked in HR. So I did a lot of the same stuff, what I call the same thing,
Yeah.
training, development,
Yes.
coaching, right, for adults versus adolescents. And I went on a whim, Brooke, to I found an online class who there were these two life coaches teaching it. I didn't really know what life coaches were. And one of them was having an event in Atlanta. I live in Baltimore. And it was like, I don't know, kick off your new year, some life coaching dinner. I was like, I'm going to get on a plane. And at the time, I didn't feel real comfortable traveling by myself. But I was like, I just felt called to do it. And I stood in front of this like dinner. I don't know, she probably had about 40 people there. And we had to get up with a microphone and say why we were there. I am not a shy person. All of a sudden, I got up. I was like, I don't know what I'm
I don't
saying.
know why I'm here.
Exactly. I was like, "What? Why am I here?" And, I remember at the time, just, like, what came out of my mouth was like, "My life's okay." Like, there's nothing if you looked at my life on the outside, it checks a lot of boxes. It isn't I'm not, like, walking around unhappy, but there's something more. My life keeps saying to me, "This isn't like like, this isn't really your stopping ground. You
Yeah.
need to be willing to push yourself beyond kind of these fears of, like, taking risks." And a woman that I didn't know, because I didn't know anybody in that room, came over to my table, like, a little while after we all got up, and she said, "Stacey, I have a question for you." She goes, "What would you do if you could do anything?" Right? Like, if this was your last year on the planet, and I had followed Martha Beck. I don't know if you know her, but I had followed her in Oprah Magazine. I'd read all her books. I was very much a fan of Martha. And I said, and a lot of these women that were there were Martha Beck coaches. And I said, been thinking about Martha Beck's life coach program, but am like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, who am I? I'm in this other like career trajectory. And she said to me, "Stacey, do it." And it wasn't that she needed to give me permission, but almost like she was channeling my permission to myself, that I
Right.
didn't have to have some reason. And I think that that's where, to your point of how do people get stuck in life, we
Right.
think we have to have a reason and it has to fit into this mold. And I tried to kind of fit into the mold. And along the way, I had a lot of trauma too. So that also made me nervous about feeling safe in the world. And what I
Mhm.
realized when I went through and I did it. I went and became a life coach, and
Right.
then all of a sudden, my whole life like blew up in the best way. Um, I realized the safest I could be on the planet, and the happiest, and the most, all the things, was actually being who I am. And in that process of going through that program, I trained at the Chopra Center. I became a master coach. I became a Reiki master. All of that almost was an unlearning, an undoing
Mhm.
of the way the world was like, "You don't fit into the box, so we're gonna fit you
Right.
into the box."
Right.
And then I got to the place where I was like, "Break the box."
Let's just get out of it. Yeah.
Right? Like, just like,
Yeah.
it's confined. You've now made the choice to stay here, and you can make the choice to liberate yourself. And when I made those just choices and decisions, not like it was like just one moment, but over and over again, all my intuitive gifts just like rose to the surface, like was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I just found again there are people out there. My brain had believed like nobody's going to get me. I'm going to be right. Like all the worst fear is like you're going to be on an island of social rejection
Mhm.
for the rest of your life.
Yes, yes.
So you wade through all of that and you realize no, like actually, I at the time I went and saw Brene Brown, and it was right when she was on tour for the Braving the Wilderness. And I remember when she was talking about belonging, like true belonging, like if you are out of your own authenticity, right, and trying to fit in the world or whatever it is, you're like showing the world what you think it wants. And then you're not actually really, right, who you are, allowing yourself to be that. And then that creates a whole lot of, I think this is where, like, again, I can get really busy and do all these other things when I'm in that space where I'm not being true. And it's like, oh, of course, I'm trying to be busy because I need to make some adjustments. I'm trying to go back into the box or I'm trying to do something else. So that's kind of a short Stacey version.
Yes, right. Well, that makes complete sense because what you said, and I read your if Stacey Anton coaching, right?
Yeah.
Um, I read your story and it was so beautiful and the way you phrased it. And what you said too just stuck out to me is that you are being true and you started in small steps and big steps being true to who you are. Um, and thinking about that 5-year-old self. And that's kind of where other people need examples of that, like in small ways and big ways, like how do you take that first step? And you kind of went over that. You took the first step. You took a chance and a risk, and you went to a life coaching. You even left teaching because that wasn't the space, and you went to human resources, which kind of like led you into the next step and the next step.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people would want to know too, is like that next step. But I have a question for you
Sure.
because this you
I
that's
could talk about this all day with you, Brooke. So
I know, me too. And I want to give you a
this
question.
is my jam.
Mine too. And I'm a certified life coach, and I start Wayfinder um, in a few weeks. So, and I've been a
Live,
Mark.
live.
I call myself a Martha Beckian for 12 years now.
Yeah,
I'm a former
absolutely.
teacher. Just left teaching this past May. Taught
Yeah.
college, taught elementary school. So I get you.
You know what I found, and I bet you will find it, or you already find it to be true, is everything we did, like people go, oh, that was I regret that, or that was a mistake. Actually, I don't. I think teaching and working in the corporate world and everything I did, all of the skills, everything brought me to the place I am now. And I
Wow.
think of life, like when you talk about big steps and little steps, I think also too, sometimes we think of like, oh, our perfect life or the opportunity to be, who we really are is like we're waiting for the bus and we're waiting, and that morning we overslept and we
Right.
missed it. Well, there's another bus or another wave or whatever metaphor you want to use. You can't miss it. If the invitation shows up and you're like, I'm not quite ready, it's okay. Another invitation is going to keep showing up. And I actually believe I've had a great conversation. I'd be so curious to hear your opinion about this too, is that life coaches really are teachers, right? Like, and I don't mean maybe even the traditional sense of like, I have all the answers. I think the best teachers on the planet, well, maybe planets, maybe we're getting there
Maybe.
too,
Yeah.
right? Is the one that helps the person really discover their truth, their knowing, their wisdom, and doesn't, right, overlay what they believe and allows that organic
Mhm.
um, discovery process. So anyway, that's a little side note, but I love teachers.
Right. Yeah, because I agree. It's that process of really knowing someone and not putting yourself and your own beliefs on them
Mm.
too. And
Yeah.
and you pointed out too, as you said, there is no right or wrong in our choices and the events in our lives. It's all meant to be exactly where we are right now. Wherever we are right now is exactly where we're meant to be because here we are. Right, right,
Agreed.
right. So, what were some basically it could be hard decisions or basically decisions and choices that you had to make
Yeah.
kind of pull yourself out of that. And it could be, again, those smaller, big things. What are some choices that you had to make to transition?
That's a really great question. So, one of the bigger ones, well, two of the bigger ones. First, I'll start with I met my first husband when I was 16. And at the time, I didn't realize what type of abusive childhood I really had till I got a little bit older and had perspective. It just was my life, right? So when you're young, you don't realize, like, yeah, this is not
Yeah.
how
That's
it
not the way
should
to, yeah.
unfold.
Yeah.
And not even, again, I don't regret my experiences. They brought me exactly where I am. However, when I met him, I really was looking for a way out of that abusive um, structure and all those things. What I didn't realize was I really created that same pattern for myself in my first marriage. So my mother had been very emotionally abusive. My first husband was very emotionally abusive to me. I didn't at the time, again, because it just felt like, well, this is like, right? This is
Right.
what happens. Um, and so I ended up leaving him kind of not quite in the middle of the night, but almost like that, with just some belongings, um, realizing that I needed to leave, like, I needed to choose myself, and it was such a big, brave act because I'd been kind of in these kind of victimized places that at the time, so much of me was like, even if I wanted to change, right, there was a part of me that believed, like, is it even possible for me? How am I going to untangle? That was called divorce, like disentanglement of my former life. Like, how am I going to pull all these threads apart? My husband did not want to get divorced, so that made it more complicated. And it was just like, when you're taking those big steps, even little ones, but the big ones, what has helped me the most is I don't have to have the 50 like step plan. I don't need to know everything I'm going to do. If I stay in the present moment and just get really clear about what the next step is. Like when I was like, all right, I'm ready to like literally I needed to move out of this household, get into a safe place to be, and then I'm gonna think the next step after that. And I think for a lot of us that are feeling stuck, what feels overwhelming or what keeps us from making those choices is when we feel like, "Well, I don't know what's gonna happen," right? And then that kinda just shuts us down.
Right.
My other big choice or step was when I left my corporate job because, I had been applying. I was deciding I was gonna change jobs, and I had been applying, and I hadn't gotten I mean, I'd gotten great interviews, but nothing was quite, like, syncing up, and I remember asking the universe, like, just I would love to be open to, like, some guidance here, and I got a really clear message that it was like, "You're not meant to work, like, you're meant to open your own business," and, and I remember at the time I was dating my now husband, who's amazing. He said, "Well, can't you just do both?" And I was like, "Actually, I can't. I can't be all in and really present with this new business and working 10-hour days at my like, it just wouldn't work." So we had to navigate, and I had to navigate that with him because it had impact toward, for both of us in our household together. We were living together. Um, People always ask me, "Was I really scared?" And to be honest, there's something about being a teacher and then being in business, like, I knew enough almost to be dangerous. And what gave me the most calm in my heart and peace, and it always comes to me, it's like, if this doesn't work out, don't sweat it. You're gonna land on your feet. You've been through way worse. And when you get to whatever this is, if it is different, again, maybe not it's going to be worse, but maybe it's actually better because we never default to that, right? Whenever we're making a big,
Mhm.
taking a step or choice, it's like we think about all the worst case scenarios, which
Right.
I don't mind. I like that
Yeah.
feels good too, feel into all of that,
Yeah.
but also allow yourself to really be in the possibility because the universe does not dangle these desires like within us or around us, like we feel it, because we're not meant to achieve them. We get these desires and these nudges and these feelings because we are meant. And so, what I've always thought, at least kind of my perspective, is some of our biggest life obstacles are absolutely what is connected and like at the heart of our life purpose. So for me, like choosing myself, really making different decisions to be like self-love and all of these things I didn't learn, all of these obstacles, like has brought me to being in this beautiful place and then being able to be in service to other people on the planet.
Right. Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It makes me want to get you to coach me.
Anytime, anytime. Let's have some fun.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
So that leads me to like a kind of a last question is
Mhm.
you've talked about some hard decisions that you made and how you've changed. Like there's a lot of things that you did in your life that were that amazing. That was like strong, brave stuff. What advice would you give to others that are seeking and making changes in their life right now? Especially, um, people are making big changes. They
They are.
see
The
what's
world is
needed.
changing and it's so amazing. I feel like
Yeah,
we chose this time to be here to help usher in like a new world order that's grounded in love and not like rainbow love, messy human love.
right,
This
right.
in
Love of all,
right?
bringing it all in. Just suck it
Exactly.
all in. Yes.
All of it. And so I think a lot of times when we're making changes, we're waiting for the sign or we're waiting for the I remember when I was, contemplating divorce, I was like waiting for the perfect moment. And then I realized like there is no perfect moment.
Yeah,
And
not.
so I think that this idea, and it reminds me of Wayne Dyer. It's two things that he said that I really hold to true when I'm kind of doing brave things. One is don't die with the music still left inside of you, right? So life and I didn't know the world had rules. And like, so I'm so grateful that I was willing to make those, again, brave, tender choices and steps because if we do not do that, the world misses something. Your unique magic, your superpowers, exactly the way you're meant to share them, Brooke. Nobody else has that. And so when we're willing to be uncomfortable because we know, again, we have this beautiful music to share. And it goes right along with the other thing that Dyer said that was, um, so often we need to believe it or see it before we believe it. Believe it. I'm always inspired by Lady Gaga, who like years before she was famous, like had this little apartment in New York City somewhere, and she literally like was doing kind of like mantra work, I think, telling herself like just believing it self concept. So I think we look to the outside world to confirm for us, right? I'm the person to be doing this, or this is working, or what have you. What is the most powerful thing we can do is to create a belief system that's going to support us through the change that really can remind us when we forget, yeah, I'm meant to be doing this work in the world. I'm meant to be here sharing love and my gifts. Nobody else can do it quite like me. And I think that keeping it in a very present moment lens can be very, very helpful when you're like,
Right,
you're not
right,
sure.
right. And that is perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Stacey, because what that says is as you create your own culture, you kind of have to create your own tribe of yourself until
Yeah,
you find your tribe. You still have to create that culture for yourself to let yourself know I am meant to be here. I am meant to be who I
mhm,
am at all times and not listen to any other cultural belief, whether it's parental or spousal or friends
yeah.
sometimes that
Well, and I think there's so much. uncertainty and chaos out in the world right now, intentionally to draw us back in to our own inner wisdom, to what we know. We're not supposed to be looking for the answers outside of us right now as we transition, as we lead into this new space. Everything we seek, right, is within us. And I think it's also, do we make the time to connect to that part of us? Because there's a lot of distractions, there's a
Mhm.
lot of noise, and it's easy to get caught up. I do it. I mean, hey, it happens. And then I have to remind myself to come back into that stillness and be like, okay, what is true for me, what feels again like the next guided step. And kind of along the lines of that too, Brooke, one of the other things that has helped me through all of this change process is the belief that I'm always being supported.
Yeah.
If you believed you were always being supported and guided, you can't mess it up. And it's like, yep, I'm in. Let's try this and see what happens.
Wow, that's like a perfect. I love that. The perfect message. If you once you know that I'm always supported, then you
Yeah,
can choose exactly what's right for you,
yeah.
and that's perfect. And that's really what you have done, and you show other people what you started years ago. Everything that I've seen of yours, your website, your story, and being here today, it just shows that for more and more people that they
Thank
can
you.
do it too. You're
Well,
welcome.
it's an honor. I'm so honored to be interviewed by you and be on this. I love it. I love it. So thank you for,
Yeah,
there's a synchronicity where we found each other, and I just
I know.
believe, again, when you believe and you trust, it's like, oh, it just works out so
I know.
magically.
It's magic.
It
It's
totally
magic.
is. It
It's
really is.
magic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Oh,
you talking to me today. It's so
you are so
awesome.
welcome.
And I'll
Have a
send you a
beautiful
link
day.
too.
Okay, sounds great.
You have
Take
a
care.
wonderful day. You too. Thank you, Stacey. Stacey Andon, who says that the world misses something if you do not express yourself, if you don't give what your own superpower is, your own unique music and magic in the world. And you are always supported and always loved. And I love that. That's Stacey Andon. She is a coach. It's staceyandoncoaching.com.